There is nothing like the sound of a child laughing. As a parent, a child's happiness is priceless. But when a child is sick, there's nothing as frightening. The Merriweather family has seen the best and worst of life through the eyes of their now 6-year-old son. And they persevered through it all with boundless love and optimism, despite the dark circumstances. Now, some might say young Chase has seen it all, but in reality, he takes on life with an abandon reserved only for a child who sees no limits. 3-year-old Chase and his brother, 5-year-old CJ, had been begging their parents to take a trip to Disney World. Their parents, Chad and Chisa, loved the idea, but there was one caveat. The boys would need to save up for the trip.
For months leading up to Disney World, any change they could find, whether it was in the car, at school, around the house, they claimed it and put it in their piggy bank. And me and Chisa found a really convenient time where we can kind of just get away from the everyday norm. And we said, all right, we'll let them know that they've saved enough change. So once they got home from school, we said, all right, guys, I think we might not have enough money to get to Disney World. So I took both of the boys over to the bank to count their change. And I think their whole $3.47 that they saved up, they were ecstatic that Dad let them know that, that was just enough money to get to Disney World. And, an hour later, we were on the plane.
By the time we got there, I think it might have been about 11 p.m. They were ready to go. They were ready to go the next morning. Yeah, we had to explain to them that the park was closed.
As night turned to day, the family made their way to the park.
So we get to the park, and we had everything scheduled. Chisa, she planned it out. So we had the breakfast with the characters. We go down Main Street, do the parade, and on the way down there, Chase was really the one who was a little bit more excited than CJ to meet Goofy and Mickey, et cetera, et cetera. I just remember taking the shuttle there. He didn't have that same level of excitement. He had the early signs of kind of what we thought was maybe a stomach bug or like maybe a cold or something like that.
Chad took Chase to an urgent care facility and then to a hospital. Chase's infection was getting worse by the moment. The doctors were puzzled and sent him by ambulance to the Florida Hospital for Children in Orlando, 45 minutes away.
Probably midway through that drive from the Arnold Palmer Hospital to the Florida Hospital for Children, the speed went from like the normal, 40 miles an hour to like a 60, 70, and they threw the sirens on. Now I'm sitting up front with the ambulance, and the guy driving the ambulance, and I'm looking, checking in the back, and I can see rumblings going on in the back. And once we kind of parked and we made our way to the Florida Hospital for Children, is kind of when the concern level, everything got elevated. And the doctor, he could tell that I was a little nervous and a little panicky. He looked me in the eye and he said, hey, listen, I understand you're concerned, rightfully so, and I can assure you we're going to do what we can to help your son. I saw one of the nurses talking to the doctors, and they were talking about worst case scenario type of deal, like, we might lose him type of deal. Deep down inside, I'm just like thinking, oh my goodness, dude, I was like, you gotta pull through. Like, this can't be the end of his story. Like, this is just not fair. Like, he's a 3-year-old kid.
As days grew to weeks, Chase's condition never improved. After many surgeries, the doctors at the Florida Hospital for Children worked with Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to fly Chase home. But he had not been conscious in weeks, and no one could predict his ability to recover.
We understood that as a result of the brain surgery, there may be some short-term, long-term memory deficiencies as a result of that. He was sedated this whole time, and we were comforted in the fact that he wasn't feeling like he wasn't awake for any of this. But we didn't know whether he woke up, whether he would even know who we were. And one night, as we normally do, call and check in, Chisa, calls and asks, how's Chase doing? And I'm talking to Chisa, and I'm looking down at him, and I'm seeing something that was abnormal. His lips were moving. Like he's trying to say something. I'm like, this was beyond 2 months of nothing. To seeing his lips move was like my blood was just like bubbling. Like the hairs on my arm were just standing up. I'm like, what's going on here? And Chisa's like, what's going on? I was like, I gotta call you right back. And I went over to him and I was like, Chase, say mommy. And he was like, I can see a mouth from mommy. Say Mommy? There was less concern about whether or not he mentally was there, because we were getting more, like, as the days went on, Chase's personality started coming back.
Do you want to dance some more? Should we dance? Here goes.
Go. Go, Chase. Dance. Do the dance. Kick the leg.
But the downside is, okay, now the major concern is, you know, his hands and his feet took a beating during this whole ordeal.
In saving Chase's life, his extremities fell victim to a lack of blood flow, and his hands and feet were dying. Now came the difficult task of telling Chase he would need them amputated. As difficult as that would be, the Merriweathers made it a positive.
Actually, Chad broke it to him and told him that he was going to have robot hands and robot feet. So he was like, oh, okay. And then CJ overhears it. And CJ says, well, why can't I have robot hands and robot feet? And we're both like, no.
Oh, this is backfiring quickly.
So this is not the way we should have broke it to him. But I mean, Chase was okay with it.
But, you know, internally, we were crushed. You're trying to picture a world with your son of not having his hands and his feet, and how is he going to do normal things? And what we've learned through this whole process, and continue to learn, is kids are so resilient, and they're willing to accept any challenges. It's us, and what the world we know longer term what that means, but they just attack it.
Bruised, battered, and without hands or feet, Chase embraced life with the resilience of a gladiator and the heart of a child.
The first thing that I was asked to do was find a way for him to hold his Wii remote. So that's what we did during our first session, was I figured out a strap so that he could hold the Wii remote and play with his brother.
When I first met him, I was very taken aback. I thought he was going to come in and be completely dependent for all care, and he came in and jumped out of his wheelchair and just was like crawling all over the place, wrestling Chad, beating up his brother, just doing whatever he could physically do.
Pull. Go boy.
And then we got the lower extremity prosthetics, and at first he just didn't want to walk. He would stand, but then we would figure out incorporate it into play, and he just kind of took off from there.
Last one. Go. It's like running on a treadmill. I'm running nowhere.
As Chase grew accustomed to his prosthetics, he took back the joy that his illness had stolen from him, and he began to play sports again.
Get it, Chase. Woo! Run! Go, Chase, go!
From track to baseball to soccer, it seemed like there was nothing he couldn't do. He was an inspiration to everyone he met, and that included his new friend, Brandon Graham.
The first time I met Chase, I seen a little guy full of energy, very high-spirited, and just like me. And I think that kind of kicked us off.
Can I get some love? How you doing, man?
No matter what life throws at you, if you have a positive attitude about it because you can't change it, I mean, man, that's half the battle right there. I mean, he can inspire people just off that. He couldn't ask for a better person.
What are you doing here? Can I talk on the microphone? Can I talk in it again?
As his story grew in the community, the Merriweathers started the charity Chase Your Dream to help families affected by limb loss. And as Chase inspires other children, it seems as though there is nothing he can't do.
What are Chase's limits now? If you would have asked me that right before he got his amputations, I probably would have said, well, it's going to be a challenge for him to get dressed, to drive, to do fine motor stuff. You ask me that now, and my honest answer to you is he has no limits.
Chase Merriweather.
A lot of people look at us as we're so strong and we're the heroes. No, we get all that fuel and all that passion from Chase and these other kids. When I say that they inspire me as an understatement. What got me personally through it is obviously the friends and the family, but most importantly is Chase. His desire and his compassion and his ability to just be able to tackle whatever challenge and just go full force, it just put a whole new perspective on what's most important, as well as the limitations you personally put on yourself. He's continuing to think he can do everything, and I'm going to continue to push him in that direction. And that's going to be twofold. One, it's going to force him not to put any limitations on what he can do or can be. And then two, and most importantly, it's not going to allow other people to put limitations on him. He's going to knock over so many barriers, inspire so many people. I know we're just a little plot in his overall story.